now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
Hey, this is Ben.
on Spoiled Rotten. And today we are revisiting both parts of The Dark Knight Return.
That's right.
And, for reasons I will make clear almost immediately, decided to just put them both together and not split them up.
I am very glad you did, because splitting them up is not fun. And if you want to know why, go listen to our Last of Us Season 2 review.
Or what we've been saying about these DC animated films in general. Like the 1 hour and 16-minute thing doesn't really make sense for these stories. But also, I do not care for the first half as much as I care about the second half.
Okay, well, I'd love to hear why. I can kind of see why you're like, yeah, the second half's awesome, because it is. But like the first half to me does a lot of groundwork that really, really is cool that I really enjoy.
We watched it together. Imagine being like, you just saw that first half.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Months for the second half.
That would be horrible.
It only works if you're watching it together.
Yeah, it really does.
Like the story, the story came out in issues, but in general, like there was no point in splitting them up like that. I mean, obviously there was some mandate that we're not aware of because all of these movies are under 80 minutes. But I just was like, you know what, we've been complaining this whole time about the length of these. Let's just watch both of them at the same time.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did that. I was going to be protesting if we were like, wait, no, I don't want to do 2 episodes, because it would, because clearly you're right. Part 1 is just, it drags so much compared to part 2. Part 2 is just like, we're gonna hit the ground running. It's awesome.
Yeah, like it just feels like all set up, which is a weird way to. I get that they call it part 1, but it doesn't feel like a full meal.
No, it doesn't.
And then the second part.
Yeah.
So
the only thing I notice about separating them this time around, which I'm not saying does do anything good, but to the review aspect of it, but it's just like, okay, yeah, it does allow people to be like, yeah, there's been months past that, Robin has fulfilled the training and all that kind of stuff. That's, I guess, kind of it, but like, other than that, I'm like, no, just make it one thing.
Yeah.
And you're right. We don't know what the mandate is for the short run times, but I don't care. It's a stupid mandate. I don't like it.
Unless it meant people got paid properly.
That is true.
Then fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm sure there's a business thing that we don't know. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's probably a business thing, but the business thing is probably like, we get more money this way. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Son of a gun.
Anyway, if people don't know, The Dark Knight Returns, most Batman movies you've seen have taken heavily from this storyline.
From Nolan to Snyder to like they've taken a lot from this.
Tim Burton wanted to do a Batman movie is this. But yeah, basically this is Batman at the end of not the end of his life, but he is much older, decidedly older. He's probably in his 60s, because Commissioner Gordon's still around, and I feel like he can't be 100. So
no.
But yeah, the first half is really dealing with Bruce Wayne's death wish. So even though I said Batman stories, I feel like specifically Iron Man 3 borrows from this, down to the like, hey, let's have him race a Formula 1 car and want to kill himself. So yeah, he's a lot of what you've read before gets recontextualized as this thrill junkie that is finally like, you know what, I can just end it all now. This isn't going well for me. And he's retired being Batman. Even Commissioner Gordon's like, you sure about that? You sure you want to still be retired? And the mutants take over, and if you're thinking of Nolan, the basically the Bane storyline happens. Like, he fights him once, it doesn't work out. he gets laid out and he comes back and beats him again.
Mhm.
Even though the whole plan at the end of it of going underground and pretending you're dead.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, this is him being like, okay, finally something worthy of getting back into my old stuff, which he
Mhm.
doesn't fully commit to the outfit. Like he still does I guess that's still the second half, but like
Mhm.
he does like the granny thing where I'm just like, this only works in a comic. I don't
Yeah, the
I don't
granny
like
thing
it
is
here.
weird. It's weird.
Yeah,
That's the
but
one
basically,
bit I
the
don't like about part
Gotham is
two.
overrun by these mutants. They talk a very specific way, which can be fun,
Yeah,
slice and dice
slice
and
and
stuff.
dice.
Yeah, and then Carrie Kelly is like, I'll just be a Robin. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, something needs to happen here. Somebody needs to take a stand.
Hmm.
And I didn't remember liking Carrie Kelly that much until this go around. I liked her a lot
Hmm.
more this time. 'Cause I found her to not be as, oh gee golly. I was like, oh no, like she's just trying to help out and she's doing a good
Yeah.
job actually.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, then Bruce is kind of like, oh yeah, I have to protect this new Robin, and I think that kind of brings him out of his shell and less of a death wish now and more of like, okay, I've got something to fight for.
We've got a
But
mission again. Yeah.
as I mentioned, he does not beat that mutant leader right away.
Yeah.
He gets knocked out.
Hmm.
So second half is when he's like, okay, I'm back in Batman mode now. Before that was a little rusty. I'm back. He has that whole line of, don't you get it? This pit is operating
Oh no,
through
that's still
you.
in part one. That all the mutant stuff is in part one. It's the part two starts with the granny thing and
Yeah, but
chasing down.
there still is mutant stuff. But you're right.
Yeah, but the
He beats
boss,
him in the
yeah,
he
the
beats
the
the
fight
mutant
thing
leader,
is
but
part
the
one. Yeah.
mutants are still on the edge of whether or not they're going to follow Batman and become sons of Batman. Like, because his girlfriend is still there,
Yeah.
like the woman with the swastikas on her chest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not completely done in the first half, but you're right. The first half is when he beats him,
Mhm.
and everyone's like, "Whoa, Batman's back!"
Yeah.
Um, and the president is like, "All right, we got to stop this. We got to
Mhm.
shut this down." And he tells Superman, basically, a lot of stuff happens, but basically he's like, Superman, you have to just shut him down now. Like,
Yep.
we've stopped the whole multiple cartes thing, and then now you need to just go shut Batman down.
Mhm.
Which Batman is like, how dare you?
I'm ready for you.
I'm gonna beat you up just
I've
for this.
been waiting for this, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is great. You know what? Yeah, go ahead. And he's lucky that also Green Arrow wants to
Yeah.
join in and take
Oliver.
out.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, you basically get the Batman v Superman fight, except for this time it makes sense, and no amount of saying I need to help my mom will stop it, because
Yes.
you've, even within these two movies, you've built up why there's animosity, but
Mhm.
you also take into account all of their comic history at this point,
Mhm.
and it's not the first time they're meeting each other.
Yeah.
They are old friends.
Mhm.
There's resentment there. One is like, how could you sell out to the men? The other one's like, how come you're not just following the rules?
Mhm.
And the fight makes sense.
Yeah.
It is because it's about principles and not just about
Mhm.
miscommunication.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It not just about miscommunication. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, the fight actually makes sense. It's actually great. I love the dialogue that Bruce has towards the end of it. It's
Mhm.
one of my favorite lines. It's one of my favorite speeches from Batman ever because it's just like, yeah, it's really, really good. He knows how to dig into the psychology of Superman, and it's great.
Are you talking about the fact that he's like, just remember, I took it easy on you and I still beat you.
Yep.
So, so you should
And
think about that every
yeah,
day, that I beat you while not going full tilt.
yeah, and then also being like in your most private moments, in all this kind of stuff, you will know that I, a man, beat you. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's so good. It's so good. There's so many good like little speeches without monologuing fully that Batman delivers, and it's so good in this, in part one and two.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that as much as there's a bunch of build up in the first part, I tend to just be like, yeah, whatever. And it's the second part, because what I didn't mention is the Joker is activated at the end of the first
Yeah.
part.
Hmm.
He's been um sedated seemingly just voluntarily because he didn't seem like he felt like there was nothing really, kind of like Batman. There's nothing really to
Exactly.
live for.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, Batman's back. I'm back." I think he calls him
Yeah.
Deer or something like that, or I don't remember what he called it, but that's his only line in the like his only meaningful line in the
Mhm.
first half is just when he actually like smiles and wakes up,
Yeah.
and it's like, "Oh, Deer, you're back." Um, yeah, and then in the second half, what he does to Catwoman always like I'm just like that is ridiculous. I feel like they sand it down in this version. In the comic, you're
Mhm.
like, this is fucked. What you're
Yeah.
doing right now
You mean what Joker does to
to
Catwoman?
Catwoman, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we can get into details now. But that's the general story is that
Mhm.
Joker comes back as well. So Batman has to take care of him before
Mhm.
he takes care of Superman, and
Yeah.
Joker makes kind of just a final gambit
Yep.
that we'll get into later.
One final showdown for
Yeah.
sure. It's real good. Um, part one I really like because it all is about the death wish of Bruce Wayne and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff, and the idea, exploring the idea of like what happens when your purpose is taken away,
Yeah.
or when you're not chasing down your purpose. And that's why I love the parallel between Batman and Joker, because like you said, he gets activated towards the end. Joker now has a purpose again. Batman's
Hmm.
out of retirement. He's like, yes, my best friend is out to play. Let's play and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So I do love the idea of exploring what is life without purpose and how you can never really truly escape the purpose, at least for Batman and Joker in those parallels, in the sense where it's like, um, and this is the greatest thing about it. It's just seeing Batman's trauma reactivated and being like, oh, right. And I forget the line of like, I'm not done with you yet, old friend, or something like that, with a bat
Yeah.
flying at him, where he's just embracing his purpose again. I'm like, yes, let's go, baby. It's
Yeah,
good.
I feel like everyone is when I say everyone, all of the main characters are dealing with what's their purpose, right? Like
Mhm.
even the mutants, as I said, when they are like making their decision, are we gonna be the sons of the Batman now, or are we gonna
Yeah.
keep? No one is like just like, oh, I guess that's done then. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, what's next? Like even Commissioner Gordon, who gives up his spot to Yindel, is still like, but what am I doing if I'm not doing this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right that it's explored. I think a lot of what I don't like about the first half, in addition to me feeling like it's just set up and doesn't work as a standalone movie,
It does not.
and
Yeah.
we can just take that out of the equation because we watched them together.
Yep.
Um, I'm not a fan of Peter Weller's Batman or Bruce Wayne. I feel like he is just reading lines
Mhm.
compared to almost every other like the guy doing Commissioner Gordon, even what's her face from Modern Family doing Carrie Kelly. Everyone feels like they're engaged
Yeah.
and like acting. Peter Weller just sounds like he's reading lines, and I get it. People are like, well, RoboCop was Batman. That's cool, but to me, that's not cool enough
I
to
agree.
excuse just. And because it's very heavy on him needing to monologue through that part, I'm just like,
Mhm.
I don't. And it's yes, it is partly like I wish it was Kevin Conroy, but also just like I don't think he's doing a good job regardless. Like even if this
I
was the
agree.
first time I heard a Batman speak, I'd be like, why does he sound like that?
Mhm. It's it. I completely agree with you. I think one of the hardest criticisms I have towards this specifically is the voice acting for Batman. I'm just like, it's pure monotone. Like you're
Hmm.
not understand. Like to me, the biggest concern, and I like that you bring up the Bruce and Batman thing, is just like there's no difference in the delivery, and that's such a big issue in regards to that. Like there should be more life in Batman's voice. I can understand the monotone, like I'm just gonna, one note delivery for Bruce because Bruce is basically defeated, not without a purpose and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But when he puts on the Batman cowl again, you should hear a little bit more life in what he's doing and his delivery. And truly, you just I don't get any of that, but everyone else around him, including like Superman and all that kind of stuff, Superman that normally does take this spot of like, okay, single delivery, very controlled, has to be perfect and all that kind of stuff. Like that's what I would expect from a Superman kind of voice acting thing, more so than a Batman. And it's really disappointing to see that the delivery here is just it's the same throughout, and that not great. Don't love it.
Yeah, I feel like he, I don't know if he does other voice work or if this was his first time.
Mhm.
It felt like exactly the reason um professional voice actors get upset when they just get a big name to step in and do
Mhm.
it, because
Yep.
they think like, yeah, it's just a paycheck or whatever, as opposed to acting, because
Yep.
it still is acting. Not just because you're not on screen doesn't mean you're not acting.
Yep. It's mhm.
So yeah, maybe I'll feel bad if it comes out like he just had an issue or whatever, but I did, the performance overall does not work for me, and it
Mhm.
feels, maybe it's just, you know what, I'm just used to it in the second half. I remember even when I did watch them months apart as they released properly, I was just
Mhm.
like, I just like the second one better. Like for whatever reason, it's easier to get, like, because there's more going on, it's
Mhm.
easier to deal with his performance. But in the
Yeah.
first one, it's so heavy on him that I'm just like, I can't get into it with this
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Like I said, it would make sense if that was his choice for Bruce's voice, and but for Batman to have the exact same delivery, I don't like it. And I'm not trying to say he should be happy. I'm just like the energy should be there. There
I
should be
agree
more
with you.
dynamic
Hmm.
range in what his delivery is, I think personally. And it's just like, no, it's just Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person. I'm like, no, anyone that really understands the psyche of this character really understands that they're two separate characters.
I don't. I like. I mean, I agree with you, but I don't even mind if his idea is they are just the same thing at this point.
Hmm.
But to your point, that still leaves you with like a Peter Parker gets more mouthy when he puts his mask on because he feels a little bit
Hmm.
more like, there is a, specifically in this storyline, but in other superhero things, there's a joy that comes with it. Like even if it's a guilty joy, like there's a joy. We just watched it in Daredevil Born Again, like
Hmm.
when he's allowed to like indulge in that side of himself,
Yep.
which the animation does a lot of that work, but his voice isn't matching that.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. Because to me, it is inexcusable in part two when he's delivering that because I like the dialogue from it. I hate the delivery
Mm-hmm.
to Superman, but it's just like that should have been his proudest moment. The whole movie ends on that conflict. That is the pinnacle thing. It's just like, okay, Joker's gone. That doesn't even pale in comparison to what his beef is with Superman. And you're absolutely right because it is a clash of morals in this regard. And for him to win and be on top and not have any difference in his delivery and not be like, all that kind of don't like it.
Or even maybe a small thing, the way he delivers good soldier to Carrie Kelly Robin. I'm just like, you gotta, it's gotta be something else than what you've
Hmm.
been doing before that. You
Hmm.
can't just deliver it like you deliver it, because obviously this bittersweetness of that is he cares about her deeply now, but
Yes.
he's still calling her a soldier. But there's no complexity to what he's doing in his line delivery.
Hmm. Hmm. It's it and I hate that every time he's reminded of the Jason Todd thing. It's the same delivery.
Hmm.
It's just and I can understand that a little bit more because I'm like, yeah, you're being defensive, all that,
Right. Yeah.
but like there should be pure moments of actual joy or like dynamicism with everything. He's just flat. It's RoboCop as Batman, like you said. I'm just like, this is boring.
Yeah. It's not, it is something, obviously on this round of watching it I can get over, but it does really bum me out because I feel like I knew people that were like, I can't believe you don't like him as Batman. I'm like, I guess I'm wrong because I just feel like it's a bad performance.
Nah, I'm with you on that. I'm just like, and to your point, yeah, if he interprets him as the same person, so be it. That's his right as the delivery and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just like, there's literally no change.
Yeah,
There's literally no change.
I think you're right that there should be a difference.
Hmm.
They're obviously not two completely separate characters, but they are different compartments. Like
Yeah,
there's just, yeah, it's just different parts of his whole,
yeah.
and to not explore that in the easiest way possible, especially since you're doing a cartoon, which is
Hmm.
your voice, is a weird choice.
Yeah.
But if you are telling me, yeah, I just decided they're the same person. There's still, as if you are the same person, there's still moments where you get more excited or more passionate about things.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
not just monotone the whole time.
Yeah, like that fight where he's like dismantling the leader and all that kind of stuff, the mutant leader, the second fight.
Hmm.
It's just he's delivering all these lines to be like, "Oh, I just did this and I cut you above the brow enough to bleed in your." I'm like,
Hmm.
it's the same. It's the exact same. And it's just like I get that, okay, you pick the arena where you could take away his speed, you did all that. It's all going according to your plan. However, the lack of any kind of like, yeah, my plan's going according to plan kind of deal. It just it bums me out. It really, really does. And you're right, that is the biggest knock on part one is the fact that because you're spending so much time with Bruce, that it's just like, oh boy. Like I do like shifting focus to Two-Face. I do like shifting focus to Jim Gordon and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff because they're doing what they need
I
to
forgot
do.
Harvey was in it. He gets his full face back, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets his face back and the sides match and he can't handle it and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It's great to watch that breakdown. It's
Yeah, he's just like,
fantastic.
wait a minute, what? No, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Because
This
I
won't work.
yeah, that moment where Bruce like unmasks him, takes the bandages off his face, like, what did you do? And he's completely normal.
Hmm.
It's just like that's a great moment. It's
Yeah.
such a great moment. Because it's like, okay,
I
that's
also
the
really like
moment.
the visuals.
Yeah, that's the moment where Batman realizes, like, yeah, he's rehab is kind of because he was banking on the idea that there's hope for these people that they can be rehabbed and reintegrated in. Like that's what he delivers publicly as Bruce Wayne. And then I think that leads into the whole Joker thing in the second part is like, yeah, that there might not be a rehab here. It doesn't actively kill Joker, but it's just like what Joker says, like, yeah, I got you to lose control. I'm like, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's the thing that I think Joker always, and what
Mhm.
we like about Under the Red Hood, which is like you, have you ever considered how many people you've let me kill? And
Yeah.
it's like, yes, every day,
Yeah.
every day I think about it, and so he gets to the point, and I'm not gonna harp on it more, but the delivery isn't great, but he gets to the point where he's like, enough, I'm done with it, I'm not letting you do this anymore,
Mhm.
and he doesn't kill him, but Joker's like, still gonna break my own neck, and then
Yeah.
they're gonna blame it on you, and you're gonna be fucked anyway. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is good. But I guess what I was talking about with Joker beforehand is, in order to get Batman to come out and actually come after him, he goes after Selena Kyle first.
Mhm.
And I just remember in the book there being, I think he says it in the movie where he's like, oh, you kind of look ugly now,
Mhm.
Selena. But
Yeah, he says time has been unkind to you.
there's, so that he does this thing to her where he turns her into Wonder Woman. He
Mhm.
puts a lot of makeup on her and makes her look a certain way.
Yeah,
I'm sure he did something sexual to her as well.
100%.
Um, but it means that when Batman gets there in the comic, it's more about her, their relation. Not, I'm not saying it's not like that in the movie, but in the movie, he cares that this happened to Selena, but he's more reaffirming of like, you still matter to me. Like, don't, like, he could never make you not beautiful to me. That there's more of a, and I know it's weird to make, oh, the woman was worried about her looks, but when I read it, I felt it was more than just her surface level looks. It was
Yes.
more that connection that they have, the love they have for each other, and that he
Mhm.
was trying to make her not feel like she went out, like on the, and like, I guess bottoming out or
Yeah,
something.
because I mean, the through line here is that yeah, I'm 100% sure Joker sexually assaulted her
Mm-hmm.
and all that kind of stuff, and by him being like, "You're still beautiful to me," is him recognizing, "Hey, you're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. Nothing's changed. You and I are good," kind of
Yeah.
deal. Because that is, for all intents and purposes, a lot of the thoughts that are crossing through someone's mind at that point
Mm-hmm.
as to like whether or not they anyone can see them the same way
Yeah.
anymore,
Exactly.
whether or not they're damaged goods, and Bruce offering or Batman offering that level of support there, it's more than just beauty. It
Yes.
is about the fact that I'm like, no, you're still a whole person to me. You're not damaged goods, and that is important. And I think that gets lost a lot of the
Yes.
time.
And I think, without having read the comics, I don't feel like that is particularly underlined in the movie.
No, it's not. They really, really just get away from that as fast as possible because
Yes, because
it's
I think it's
too
more just like,
dark.
oh, I like he kisses her and he's like, yeah, don't worry, I love you. But and I'm not saying I wish they made it clear she was sexually assaulted. I just think that the connection I felt when reading it felt more important than what ends up in the movie, and maybe that's just a function of being able to read it versus looking at it play out.
Yeah, because I'm sure the voice in your head had a different delivery than
Yeah,
what he did.
I might be making an unfair comparison, but it just felt watered down in this version.
I agree. I agree. And I think purposely so. I
Hmm.
forgot what the rating is, but I'm like, if you put sexual
Yeah, it's
assault
just
rape
PG
in there,
13. Yeah.
yeah, it makes
Well,
it
that's what I'm saying.
something
I didn't
entirely
really
different.
want it to be rape so much as uh, more focus on their connection.
Yes.
This felt a little too rushed because then the police come and then he's like heading out
Yeah.
to do his thing.
Hmm.
Just felt like there was a couple more beats that could have been there for them to be tender with each other. And I don't mean to make her feel good about being sexually assaulted, just to because it's the only time they interact in this storyline. It was time to let that breathe,
Hmm.
and however PG-13 way you want to do it, show the connection.
Hmm. Yeah. It is very, very rushed and all that kind of stuff. And it's sad because it's one of the moments that really it is like, okay, yeah, this is who Bruce genuinely is and all that kind of stuff. And it's
Yeah, it's a
such a good
relationship
vulnerable
that's not
moment.
um in what we have to work with in the story transactional,
Yeah.
like Carrie Kelly or even Alfred or Commissioner
Hmm.
Gordon. And I'm not saying that they are objectively transactional, but there's room for you to see that. So that was an opportunity to have him be with somebody that it's not trans. She actively would try to screw him over as the not quite good guy. So that
Yep.
is more just a connection with someone that he genuinely cares about.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, Yeah, I mean, it really does. To me, the second half just becomes about the Superman thing because even before they fight, he's still talking to the president and he's being used as a weapon as
Hmm.
opposed to what you would imagine the Justice League was, which was
Hmm.
this autonomous entity that works to save the day. He's
Hmm.
just straight up in Reagan's pocket
Yep.
doing whatever Reagan asked him.
Hmm.
Um, and there is that moment where he gets blown up by the nuke and then has to rebuild. And I'm like,
That's a
they really
power I never knew Superman had, by the way.
I don't like. I just know it from this
From this, right?
storyline,
Okay. Yeah.
and I feel like Zack Snyder used visuals from it as well.
Hmm.
I feel like in Man of Steel, but maybe it was BVS as well. But I
Okay.
just feel like I feel like it's in the zeitgeist, but I only know it from this. And again, I don't really read a lot of Superman, so maybe it just is.
Sure.
But I first saw it uh, in this storyline when I read the actual comic.
Yeah, like there's a lot of weird Superman powers that I'm just like, did they really? I don't. What was that? Like in Superman 2, how he just takes off the S
Yeah,
from his chest and throws it at people. It's like that's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen from Superman. But I'm like, all right, sure,
I
whatever.
just feel like that was movie magic in quotation marks of like we're not
Look,
really gonna make people think he's good at fighting with like the way he can fight in Man of Steel, even though there's too much fighting in that.
yes.
So what is something that looks fancy, and they came up with that, which obviously didn't age well. And I don't even mean that audiences back then thought it was amazing, but I think I understand the idea there, which is like he's gonna do something super, but it also won't look weird like he can't punch effectively or something like that.
It's true. It's true. But anyway, getting back to this though, Superman touches life of plant and sucks all the energy from it and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. And I
And I do
think
think it's
that's
important that he's out in the sun as well
yes,
while
yeah.
he's because you're right, that's what he's doing. But I think it's also like the sun and the life working together that's
Mhm.
speeding up the process.
Yeah. And to me, genuinely interesting the idea of like, yeah, what would happen if you nuked Superman? Like what would
Hmm.
happen? And this answers it. It's just like, okay, well, regardless, because in this I like that Reagan's giving that like presidential address from his bunker and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff in his safety suit. It's like, well, guess what? The Russians are kind of sore losers. So
Yeah.
there's a nuke coming our way. And I'm like, what? That's insane.
Yeah.
And then Superman obviously just redirects it, puts it out in space, it blows up, and then he takes the whole hit, and it's a crazy visual. It's crazy.
So I'm
Snyder
assuming it's
makes
like a setup
yeah.
to be like, so what do you think Batman's gonna do to him if that nuke didn't take him out?
Yes, yes. I think that is what it really, really does a good job of. Like, hey, Superman can still live from a nuke, but Batman took him out. So like, that really speaks to Batman and his capabilities, which I love. I do love.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I like. I do think that it's not pro Superman though, because obviously the take here is just like Superman's the idiot that actually let the government tell him what to do, even though
Yes.
he's so powerful he doesn't need to listen.
Yep.
Which the more I read Superman, the more I'm like, that's not actually Superman.
Yeah.
That's someone writing a Batman story and wanting to just be like, who cares if Superman loses this fight?
I agree with that because as I consume more Superman stuff, as I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually seeing the appeal behind Superman and all
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. I'm like, okay, he's emotionally a complex character, but like everything else to me, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But like it's the idea here where this is Superman from Batman's perspective, and I think that's what's important here when you look at how
It's
Superman's
the reason I
portrayed.
say it's how he's written is because there's so much that happens without Batman being in the room that I can't say it's from his perspective.
Mm,
It's definitely how the writer sees Superman
true. Okay.
because of all the stuff that you see him doing
Mhm.
with the president only, and him being like, well, what do you want me to do? And he's like, yeah, well, that talking about Batman, like if that problem comes back up when we're done with this
With
standoff,
the
then yeah,
Corto
you
Maltese
take
thing,
care
yeah.
of it. So I just kind of feel like it's not necessarily his point of view. You know what his point of view is, which is
Yeah.
Superman sold out, so fuck him.
Yes.
But I don't think that overall the story is from Batman's point of view. It does feel like a strong take. The writer, I want to keep saying Frank Miller's take on
Mhm.
Superman.
Yeah. Which is fair. I stand corrected. Yeah, no, I want to ask you what your thoughts are on the Joker in this one.
I mean, I like what's written there.
Mhm.
I like the original comic, so they stuck pretty much to what that is. I like that he does the thing. It's not actually Conan, but it's Conan doing the voice. Like I like that
Mhm.
gambit, like where he's and we can see how that mirror or what was it? The movie Joker like mirrors like the whole killing people during the talk show or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, yeah, I like that stuff. I'm not a big fan of the voice that's being used, but I also feel
Yeah.
like at least he's doing something. Like this is someone who's actually acting.
Yes.
I don't love it, but it is definitely someone not just reading their lines.
Yeah. I don't love it because it's not Hamill doing it, but it is he's making a choice and I can respect the choices that he's
Hmm.
making. And it's just like to that point of like the end of part one is where Joker starts to have breathe new life and you see that he's got purpose in part
Hmm.
two with every one of his line deliveries. He's good. He's not he's out of his like um purposeless state and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. He's making some great choices there. And personally to me, I think this version of the Joker is so much more cruel and sadistic than a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of other ones. It's wild to me. And not just because of the fact that he's like I'm gonna do this to Selena Kyle, or I'm gonna just wildly just take out anyone in my way,
Yeah,
and
he's just
then
running around shooting. There's no like
yeah,
bit. He's not doing a
there's
bit. He's just like, no,
yeah,
I'm going to destroy things.
yeah. This is him completely unhinged and being like, this is my final showdown with Batman. This is my last dance with him and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. And to see him go completely unhinged, it's great. It's
Yeah.
so wild, and I'm just like, yes, this is great. And the other thing that I think is really really cool watching it this time around is I I didn't realize it the first time I watched it, but the connection to Jason Todd and specifically how the mutant boss is beating him the first time around with the crowbar, and then having actually Carrie Kelly just be like Robin is back and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of imagery there that really works for me in how it's healing Batman to be like, yeah, immediately this is a good Robin kind of deal. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It makes so much more
Well,
sense to me from a psychology standpoint this time around because you're right. Carrie Kelly, the first time I watched this, I'm like, you're not matching the energy right now. And I'm like, now I watch it, I'm like, no, that's exactly Robin's energy. That's exactly what he needs. This is great.
yeah, I think she's doing a job. It's
Mhm.
just unfortunate that she has to do scenes with someone we already said isn't really
Yes.
meeting the challenge of this.
Hmm.
But I do think that, yeah, revisiting this, I'm like, yeah, I don't know why I was ever lukewarm on this interpretation.
Hmm.
I think, again, when I say this, I'm talking about like from someone who just likes the story already. So it's not
Hmm.
about the beats. It's just really about the performances. I'm just like, yeah, I feel like this is a good performance,
Hmm.
and I because I already like what's going to happen with
Hmm.
Carrie Kelly. It's just like, yeah, she's doing a great job. Actually, I don't. I was a bit too dismissive the first few times I watched it.
Yeah, I was guilty of that as well. Um, because like just the drive and like the self dedication to being like, no, I want to stand up to crime. This is not
Yeah.
right and
Or
all
like
that
when
kind of
he's like,
stuff.
"Hey,
It's
don't
great.
touch anything," and she's like, "Well, I can make this better." And so and then when he
Yeah.
like realizes she obviously touched things, she's like, "Just go back to
It's like,
the
am I
cave." And but
fired?
I'm like, "You're not fired."
You're not fired.
And I like that like they're coming back, and she kind of gets injured, and she loses her glove, and that like when she goes to the fair to stop
Mhm.
Joker, she still doesn't have the glove, and you're like, yeah, like this is the not giving up thing. I like not that you would give up just because you lost your glove, but
Mhm.
she wasn't thrown by the fact that she didn't have a perfect escape like another
Yes.
Robin might have. She's like, no,
Mhm.
I can just keep going.
Yeah, it's a and I like that like Bruce immediately sees it and all that kind of stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone or like well actually it's only Alfred. It's like, did you forget what happened the first time around with
Mm-hmm.
Robin? He's like, no, and then he immediately goes into like she's smart, she's resourceful, she does this, and it's such a proper assessment. Obviously, it's like it's him healing his traumas and his
Oh
failures
yeah.
with Jason Todd, but in this situation, I'm like, yeah, it's still dead on. It's still
Mm-hmm.
dead on, and everyone's being like, Bruce, don't hurt yourself again, all that kind of stuff. And Bruce is like, I'm ready to be hurt, baby.
Yeah. um. Yeah. I also liked when it finally comes down to the fight needing to happen between Batman and Superman, that he
Mhm.
just gets that like it burnt into the field like where, and he
Mhm.
doesn't have to yell because he's like, I know you're listening. He's like, meet me here. I'm like, I like that. Again, that is the type of storytelling that works when you know that they have a comic book history and
Yep.
that it's not the first time they're meeting.
Yeah.
They had a shorthand there, and
Mhm.
he also knows I don't have to yell. Like
Mhm.
he'll hear me. He's definitely listening.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, his plan is to beat Superman, but then make it look like he died, which would also make Superman feel guilty.
Yep.
And then he's gonna take the Sons of Batman underground. Um, I guess a part I always forget in the second half that I do feel like it drags, but I understand, I guess, why it has to happen is the we talked about the nuke thing that
Mhm.
knocks out the power in Gotham, so everything is like
Yes.
horseback riding now,
Yeah.
which is again visuals from even Batman Begins when
Mhm.
like there's a bunch of horse riding in that. Um, so yeah, it kind of brings people back to the basics,
Mhm.
and I guess somewhat even. I don't even know if that's the case, but I feel like the thinking is it somewhat evens the playing field when they have their fight,
Mhm.
but not really because I feel like he still has a bunch of traps
Yes.
um, ready for it.
Yeah. What I
So
like about that whole electromagnetic surge and all that kind of stuff is that Batman immediately proves to the new commissioner is like, no, this is what I'm about. Like,
mhm.
you know what I mean? Jim Gordon doesn't have to do anything to be like, I love that discussion in part one where it's like, yeah, you and I don't see eye to eye on this, so let's just not talk about it. And he doesn't try to convince and all that kind of stuff because he knows like if Batman's around while like this new commissioner is around, Batman's going to prove himself very, very quickly. He doesn't need me to help and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Jim's very much like, no, I got to figure out what my life is about now. And you know, the greatest thing is like you see Jim being like, no, he's about community now. He's got to build and protect the community and rally at everyone and all that kind of stuff. And it's great. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. Um, a lot of this is Batman being put on trial throughout through like various talking heads, like
Yeah.
Joker's doctor. I don't
Hmm.
remember his name.
Yeah.
Lana Lang is a
Yeah.
part of it. She defends Batman.
Yep.
Obviously Yindel's like fuck that guy.
Yep.
But it is, yeah. There's always this interesting, especially in part two, when everyone's like, "So what? The mutants now they just follow Batman, but they're still very violent and make me scared." And then obviously Lana Lang's like, "But they're beating the bad guys, so
Yeah.
aren't you happy about that?" But I do like that throughout there's this running commentary, obviously building the tension between the two ideas of Superman just being like, "Come on, just listen to what they have to say and do what they say," and Batman being like,
No.
doesn't work." And also, look what happened to Oliver. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I think works best about the storyline. Is that the fight at the end actually feels like it needs to happen
Yes. It absolutely does. Because there's just no
in
way.
this story, and
Yeah.
I don't mean in every situation that would be true. In this
Hmm.
story, it makes sense that they fight. There is no amount of talking it out that's going to stop this like this tension and animosity.
Hmm. Hmm. No, you're exactly it is. It's a fight that makes sense. It needs to happen. It's not one based on miscommunication.
Yeah, like this is when, yeah, whatever.
But to be
Everyone's
fair,
seen BVS.
yeah,
Like everyone knows what that fight was about and how it makes no sense because Superman could have just been like, "My mom, like I don't want to fight you. I need to save my mom."
yeah.
And Batman would
The,
have been like, "Oh,
oh, okay. The only reason why it makes sense, and the movie does not do a good job of this, but and we've talked about this. The extended cut should have just been the theatrical cut because it really does show you, oh, okay, Lex was manipulating them both against each other the whole time, much more clearly.
yes."
And
That only explains why they would ever get to the point where like we're gonna fight. But then
yeah,
once Lex shows his hand and he's like, "I'm gonna kill your mom," and that's all Superman cares about, then nothing that came before it really matters.
exactly. It's just like I'm not defending it. I'm just saying like it makes sense only if you buy into the Lex thing. But this, it makes sense because it's naturally not
It's
being manipulated, either one of them. It's just like, no, this is our fundamental moral
it's
codes
it's two
clashing with
friends
each
being
other.
like, "Oh shit, that's what you think about me? Okay,
Yep.
all right, I see how it is."
Yeah.
There's that level of it. There's the, as I said, principles of it,
Hmm.
of Superman being like, "You're just making chaos and I don't like it," and
Yeah.
Batman being like, "I'm never going to give in. You're never going to stop me."
Hmm.
um yeah, I just think that there's multiple things working in the fight's favor.
Hmm.
And yeah, then he beats Superman, gives him his thing. They did the whole "here's the pill" to make it seem like my heart stopped,
Hmm.
which again shows that he understands Clark, being like, he'll listen, he'll hear enough, and then be like, "Okay, I this is bad,"
Yeah.
and give up and go away. I guess Clark hears his heartbeat at the graveyard or whatever,
Hmm.
which is still like, yeah, they still have a history together. He
Yeah.
probably was like, "I made my point. I don't want you to actually feel bad about killing me,
Yeah.
but you know I beat you." But that's
Yeah.
the important part.
Yeah. That smile that Clark gives to Carrie at the end, I'm just
Hmm.
like, that's a great.
Right?
Like,
She's all
yeah.
covered up, and he's like, "Oh wait, okay,
It's like, yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, we're friends. All
yeah."
that kind of stuff. We're good. You made it so that I can still do my thing and that you're doing your thing and that I don't have to hunt you down, right? Great.
Hmm.
This is awesome.
Yeah. So that's the movie. I don't like feel like this is a short one, but I didn't really. I don't know if there's more to say about.
Well, I mean, I do want to bring us back to the whole dissecting of the trial of Batman through
Hmm.
various media sources and all that kind of stuff because it's just wildly interesting to me how the psychologist guy, the doctor who is Joker's doctor and Harvey
I'll look
Dent's
his name up
doctor,
while you're talking.
it's just so wild to me how everything he did was so full of projection and like you got the diagnosis wrong and you're pointing it at the wrong person and it's just such an interesting thing to be like how the experts can, quote unquote experts can get it wrong, and then the Lana Langs of the world can be like, yeah, no, what are we actually talking about here? It's like, okay, we're talking about violence, sure, but against bad guys, that's what we have our cops for. So like, are we just mad that like our tax dollars aren't going towards doing the thing that we want, and the private, like uncontrolled entity is doing it better? I don't know, but it's just a fascinating discussion because he throws around all these like psychology terms, and I'm like, you're describing Joker, but you're projecting that on Batman. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? It's just wildly
Dr.
fun to me.
Bartholomew
Yep,
Walper, isn't he?
there it is.
I think, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and there's obviously an element of he's saying that because he can control Joker for the time being. So
Yes.
obviously he's pushing it outward at the one element he can't control.
Mhm.
And throughout the movie you see him being like, even Joker's like, sorry, you're going on TV to talk about me?
Mhm.
He's like, well, it's good. It's so there is an element of self-aggrandizing and being like, look,
Yes.
I know what I'm doing. I can control this guy, and I know Batman's bad. I know what's going on, but
Yeah.
also, yeah, I'm gonna go on TV and
Yeah.
then be like, oh yeah, I guess Joker can show up too. That what could
Yeah.
possibly go wrong?
Yeah, because I mean, especially with that psychologist Dr. Bartholomew, I'm just like, yeah, you're using these people for your own fame,
Hmm.
and that's just as bad as what you're saying and all this kind of stuff. Because what he's basically doing is rage bait stuff, and I love how the movie goes to show you how Lana Lang looks ridiculous, like with the emotions and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff, but she's saying the right things. And Dr. Bartholomew is like cool, calm, collected, all that kind of stuff, being all smug, but saying all the wrong things, but appearing the way the public would want someone to. And I'm just like, that public perception is just such an interesting tool that gets manipulated so well, and it just comes down to emotion at the end of the day and what people are perceiving, right? Because that is the whole point of Lana Lang going like, what, like just freaking out on
Hmm.
camera and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's very interesting to see how media will manipulate people that are making good arguments look ridiculous.
That's what I liked about that movie. Don't Look Up. Everyone made fun
Sure.
of it for being too obvious, and I'm like, I don't think you understand what that movie is about if you think it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, humans are shit and we don't deserve to live. It's about specifically how if you make someone feel uncomfortable about their choices, they will make you out to look crazy. Like if
Yes.
you look at Leo and Jennifer Lawrence in that movie, like compared to Lana Lang, like they start off just being like, okay, yeah, we're just here to say this thing. And then
Mhm.
Kate Blanchett and Tyler Perry are kind of like, why are you acting so like crazy about it? And
Yeah.
as opposed to like the Dr. Bartholomew who says what he's saying, it's bullshit, but he's saying it like he's cool and calm and collected.
Mhm.
And you make these people feel crazy, and you can shoot them a certain way, you can edit a certain way, but you
Mhm.
also over time make them feel frazzled and that and like with the gaslighting
Yep.
because you're like, I don't really want to change the way I do things. So no,
Mhm. Yeah.
I will not accept what you're saying right now.
Yeah, yeah. A lot. I completely agree. A lot of people. I think like I'm like, how did you get that from that movie? I'm like, yeah, sure, people are shit. Like that's a very obvious
But
thing.
it's like
But it's
people
the
want to do the
idea.
right thing, and then
Yes.
institutions are like, no,
Yeah.
that
And
doesn't serve us.
it's just you're absolutely right. It's like now our agenda is keeping the cool, keeping the whatever, and keeping people all that. I'm like, yeah, this is the interesting thing to me is how media portrays people and
Hmm.
undercuts their message just based on, oh, this person's emotional, for example, right? And I'm like, why shouldn't they be emotional about this? These are situations where it's like, yeah, Lana's yelling into a vacuum of like, you're making me look crazy and all that kind of stuff. And that is just so wild because if you remove that emotion away from it, it's just like, well, then we'd be criticizing her for like, oh, you don't have enough passion for it and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff.
Why didn't
And
you
this
say
isn't
it?
serious
Like,
enough.
yeah,
And
if it's so serious, why aren't you being more thing about it? And
mhm,
I like that there's a moment where they're also like, oh, well, we'll just talk to Batman. And she's like, you think Batman's gonna like just go on TV? And I don't,
mhm,
he doesn't really explain himself like that.
yeah,
Um, which is another choice of like, I don't need to interact with you. My actions will, like you said, when he's like, look how I'm showing I'm about community. I'm not going
Yes.
on TV to talk about it. I'm just gonna go do it.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I do think that is an interesting part of it as
Hmm.
well. Bit of a tangent on my end, but yeah, I do like the way the book, but also just the media in the world are trying to make Lana
Hmm.
Lang look crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's really really good. It's really really good. Um, but yeah, I love that you brought up the don't look up kind of things. I'm like, yeah, I think a lot of people got the wrong message from that.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Well, it's a movie that makes you have to think about your own choices. So, like,
Yeah,
people are like, no, I will
no,
not. I'll just make fun
no.
of it.
I'm
Never
still
mind.
gonna use single consumption plastics, and I'm
Yeah.
like, great, cool, whatever.
Yeah. Um, what else? There's got to be more to talk about on this.
Um, well, I mean, it feels like there should be, but at the same time, it feels like because this is so well written, there's a lot less to talk about because we enjoy it so
Yeah,
much.
it does feel like, yeah, I already like the story, so
Yeah, I will
I'm not gonna be like, I
say,
wish they did this instead. It's just like, yeah, I wish the lead gave it a bit more passion, but
yeah,
maybe that's just not in the cards, and they were just okay with having Peter Weller be Batman.
yeah, I was part of me is like, man, I kind of need to see some extra material from the director or from Peter himself and being like, can you explain some of your choices here? Like, can the director, can you be like, why didn't you direct him a little bit differently? You know, it's weird because there's two people that are culpable to that, and it's the director as well as the actor. I'm just like, wait,
He's also
what?
the voice director, Andrea
Yeah,
Romano.
okay, three. That makes it
Yeah,
rough, but yeah, it's just like,
and she is like I mean she's passed away since, but like
right.
she is the voice director. I feel like she
Yeah.
did all the Bruce Timm stuff, Batman,
Mhm.
Superman, so many things. She's in the later part of her life. She was actually in things. She's in this one as well. So yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, you know what good Batman sounds like. What are we doing here?
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think that maybe there was just an element of, look, this is what we're getting.
Mhm.
We committed to this casting, and
Mhm.
this is what we get.
Mhm. Yeah. It is what it is. I do like where the movie ends with him training and teaching the mutants and all that kind of stuff, or the
Hmm.
sons of Batman, I should say, because I think this is especially with the Joker death, um, the way he kills himself and all that kind of stuff. I think Batman has understood. Okay, and this is just my read on it, but like, okay, rehab is possible, but there's certain cases where it's not. So let's focus my energy on where it is possible, where it can do good at scale. And I think that's really, really cool where he
Yeah,
lands on that.
that's what I like, that concept. That I don't know everyone buys into, but it's a concept I like, of why he would have Robins or
Yes.
sidekicks is exactly what you said. Whereas, like, I could cut this off before it becomes a Joker.
Hmm.
I could act do something to help.
Yeah.
Uh, whether or not you think that's a good idea is perfectly up for debate, but it is how he would try and do that, since
Yeah.
obviously he thinks it worked for him,
Yeah.
or at least that's he thinks this is how he's coping.
Yeah.
So if you're buying into Batman, then you would at least appreciate that that's how he would try to help out
Hmm.
others.
Yeah.
Um, and I like that version of it as opposed to the soldier version,
Yeah.
which this goes into. But I think, yeah, I've said it before. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not a Frank Miller fan. I don't like the
Hmm.
other Batman stuff he wrote,
Hmm.
including the sequels to this. So I do think that is kind of where what he sees it as, more of a soldier thing. But I like that even you see that there is an opening for it to be more of a way of him trying to help, as opposed to trying to control somebody.
Yeah.
And obviously within that he is controlling, and
Hmm.
that's part of the interesting thing of reading those stories.
Hmm.
But I don't think he's coming at it as a form of control the way I
Yes.
think this, at least Frank Miller, sees it.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree with that. I agree with that. It's about him uh, uh, recognizing, I think, in people that okay, if this is the direction, let's guide it instead of
Mm-hmm.
letting it go run wild, and where you do get Jokers and you do get like all these supervillains and all that kind of stuff. Because
Or even Harvey Dent, like this movie shows, like
yes,
he was too far gone too.
yeah, it's the idea of like recognizing that there are special cases, and those special cases are recognized by those special people that see each other, right? I'm not
Hmm.
saying that, like this is a real life thing, but I'm like, this
Yeah,
is just
exactly.
a show thing, and or character animations and all that kind of stuff. We're fiction, right? We're in the world of
It's
fiction,
a
and in
heightened
that
world,
it
right? Like, so
works
it's not.
really, really well to be
Yeah.
like, no, I'm the only one that does understand, and that I can do good here, as opposed to the other iterations of Batman, like in Titans, was it
Yeah,
season
we've talked
three,
about
where
Untitled.
it's
Well,
like,
every
yeah, Bruce
season
is a
basically.
yeah, where I'm like, yeah, Bruce is a dick in that one, where it's just like, yeah, you've got this list of potential Robins and all that kind of stuff, where you're just like, you're actively recruiting, slotting one into a role, like whenever you need, versus this is just like, no, this organically, they met each other,
Hmm.
and he recognized the value, and he was that, and again, that whole like Jason Todd-esque like sequence from the mutant, it really did heal his ability to be like, no, I can do this properly. Like,
Hmm.
she saved me, and that's what I needed. I couldn't save Robin, but Robin saved me in this
Yeah,
situation. And that to me is really, really good, as opposed to the other versions of Batman where I'm like, no, you're just a straight up dick.
I agree.
Yeah.
Um,
This is definitely some of the best Batman writing ever. And I will say that I do know that this is one of the Frank Miller iteration of Batman. When this first came out, it really changed people's perceptions of what Batman was.
yeah,
And I think that's a really, really cool thing, because before this, you got the Adam West kind of Batman stuff, which is
yeah,
great,
yeah,
but for
yeah.
different reasons.
I do think, unfortunately, it is the version that made people be like, no, Batman wouldn't, no matter what, just as long as he has prep time, because that's what is
Hmm.
not explicitly stated here, but obviously is like when he says things like, "Do you know how long it took me to make this thing?" Or that, like, it's obviously
Yeah.
stuff that he had time to prepare.
Yeah.
And I do think that um obviously Batman has endured since, but I do think it got people on the path of looking at Batman the wrong way.
I agree with that. I
I
agree.
like the story as it is, but I
Hmm.
think that it it was that slippery slope of people being like, nope, Batman doesn't go fuck around. Like, he sees Robins as soldiers. I know that's a sore point for me, maybe not
Hmm.
everyone else, but also just, yeah, the whole he'll always win. There's no, not even Superman could beat him.
Yep.
Is a weird place to put somebody that canonically is like, I have a whole network of like family and friends that help me
Hmm.
with things. I don't
Yep.
actually do this all by myself.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. It's very weird, and I do agree that that was the down, like one of the negatives that Frank Miller brought to the characters. That
Or that people
yeah.
think that now you need to have an R-rated Batman because of how intense this is.
Mhm.
Obviously, the movie's not PG-13, or it is PG-13, but in general, that people are like, and now you got to escalate from there, and it's like, well, it's still stories for a kid. Like, I
Yeah,
enjoy it still, but it doesn't make sense to have R-rated Batman be the only thing that you can watch,
yeah,
especially considering who it's for.
yeah.
Like, if you've got
It's
a Batman movie or series of movies that kids can't watch, you're probably
mhm.
doing it wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And not because I don't want to see an R-rated Batman, but because I'm like, okay, well, the reality is that if you make the writers write Batman in a way that's able to be good for a PG-13 audience as well, you're just forcing the writers to do good writing, as opposed
Hmm.
to being like, oh, it's the equivalent of letting Snyder do whatever he wants. It's just like, yeah, okay, you're just playing with action figures in front of us at that
Yeah,
point, and it's not good writing, it's good effects. And sure, some people love that, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I think we got to give more credit to these characters that have lasted so long and have so much depth with everything that they're doing.
hmm,
Write them properly, and if you're writing them properly, that means you should be able to appeal to a wider audience, as opposed to being like, oh no, Batman is gonna do this and this. You're gonna see him twist the blade and all that. I'm like, that's who cares? Like
yeah,
that's just not good. Like he's doing the same thing here, but without that. And even like I love the fact that the mutant boss even says it's like all this power and all that kind of stuff, and you don't even take life and all that. And just the one thing I will say about the Clooney Batman, specifically in that speech towards Victor Fries, I love the line where he says, "True power is not taking life; it's being able to give it." And I'm like, yes, yes, absolutely, that is true power. You're taking life is for cowards, and just like in that, his Batman's whole shtick. So the whole idea that he's in the Batmobile doing all that kind of stuff, and it's not really taking anyone out except for maybe the people that, yeah, the shrapnel hit from the explosions. You can't really. It is what it is. He's trying to minimize loss as much as possible, but it's just, yeah, he's sticking to his code, and that's what's important. I like it.
Yeah, I like Batman. I like this story. I'm aware of what pitfalls it comes with, but as I said, as a isolated story, not isolated because as I said, it worked because of the history that you have and you know of Batman and Superman. But I do like this story. I don't necessarily like the writing of the person who made it or what kind of the fallout was once people are like, no, this is Batman, because I do believe Batman can be many things, and there should be different versions for different people.
Absolutely, and yeah, no notes on that take. That's absolutely it. There should be different versions of Batman, including the Adam West one.
Yeah, like it's all fair game, and as I keep alluding to, and I think I've said before, it's what makes sure that Batman keeps going.
Yep.
And doesn't get stale.
Yep. And that's the biggest thing too, right? That's to many people, that was the issue with Superman, is that it got stale, and that's why they had to do the Death of Superman event and all that kind of stuff, and why it was such a big deal, and that why they had to bring him back in a different way. Because I'm just like, yeah, he's getting stale. He's doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what I didn't like about it. I'm seeing a different side of it now, but at the same time, Batman doesn't have that pitfall because you get to reinvent or put different elements of it in subtle but similar ways. Like, let's lean more into the detective stuff, or let's lean more into this stuff, or the trauma bits and all that. There's many angles you can go with Batman, but with Superman, it's very, very much like single beat up until more recently, I would say, for this stuff. So yeah, Batman's a very versatile character. And when people are like, "This is the Batman," I'm like,
it's a Batman for sure.
It's an awesome Batman. It's not the Batman because Batman has multiple different versions.
Yeah. Well, let's rate the movie.
Yeah.
I guess we're saying we're rating both of them at the same time. All considered, I would give this an 8.
Yeah.
And what I talked about is what brought it down.
Yeah. I'm at an 8.5. I love this. This is probably one of my favorite Batman stories out there. Watching it back to back is really, really good. And luckily, I didn't have that issue in 2013 when it first came out, of me having to wait a while and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it didn't affect me nearly as much as it affected you. So and I'm seeing more that I like this time around. So 8.5 it is.
Awesome. Well,
the voice acting was the biggest hitch.
Agreed.
From Batman.
Agreed. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. You can reach us at tdferything.com/spoiledrotten. We are at tdfspoiled on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube. We have an email, spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. We're on all the podcast platforms pretty much. So rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, do all the good stuff. And if we're not where you want us to be, then get in touch with us in the ways I told you can. And get in touch with us anyway, just to let us know what you think of what we should cover next, or what you think of this specific pairing of movies. All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.